Alright, today we're going to talk about sedimentary rocks. And when we talk about sedimentary rocks, we want to know about their formation, so how they form, where they form, and different things about the different types of rocks you get when different sedimentary rocks are forming. We're going to classify sedimentary rocks, and we classify them differently based on how they form. And we want to know the examples of different sedimentary rocks and the environments that have sedimentary rocks. Now, I would advise that you divide your paper into 3 sections: clastic, which is our first sedimentary type, organic, and chemical. And then you can put your facts underneath each section. So let's start with clastic sedimentary rocks. They're made from pieces of sediment glued together. Now, we don't mean glue like Elmer's glue. We're going to glue them with mineral glue. And it's going to cement the different sediments together. And we classify them based on the size of those sediments. So let's start with breccia. Breccia has very large pieces of gravel cemented together, and it looks like something you might find at a construction site if we made it, but nature makes these too, and we find it in like not river valleys, but maybe where a river ends or where it was flooded. You might have some of these different sedimentary rocks that were brought together by different pieces of other rocks being glued together. Another big one would be conglomerate, and if you look at conglomerate here, it's hard to see. Zoom in a little bit. They're rounded pebbles, so they're not just gravel rocks. These are actually pebbles you would find like on the bottom of a river, and that's exactly where they form, is on the bottom of a river. So that's your conglomerate. Sandstone is a medium-sized clastic sedimentary rock because if you look closely, each little grain of sand is glued together, and they're smaller than our breccia sediments, but they're not quite as small as shale. And if you look at shale, you can't really tell the different sizes of the sediments, and it feels smooth. This would form on a lake bottom, and it feels just like mud, except now it's turned into a rock. So the mud particles were cemented, and so we get the clastic sedimentary rock shale. Now, organic is another type, and it's glued together material too, but now we have pieces of organic material glued together. So we're going to cement with our mineral glue organic material, and if you remember, organic means made from something living or that was once alive. So we classify by what the living pieces were when they were alive. So let's start with coal. Now, coal forms when you bury and subject like leaves or dead animals even, or swamp type areas. You bury them underground and subject them to heat and pressure, and you'll get the sedimentary rock coal. Now, coquina, if you look closely, it kind of looks like a Rice Krispie treat, but it's actually shell pieces that are glued together. And it looks like something you might actually find on the beach. You know, even if you went and picked up a bunch of sand, you might actually get some big chunks of seashells, and it would look something like this. The last organic sedimentary rock you will sometimes see is limestone. And you'll hear limestone in another category as well, but when we have limestone that has fossils, such as this piece, if you look closely, there's little shell fossils on the top. That's because this is an organic formed limestone, formed from those shell pieces gluing together over time. You get limestone. Now, our last sedimentary rock is chemical, and it forms when water evaporates or it falls out of solution. So if water evaporates, we're thinking ancient ocean environments. So we classify them by the chemicals in the crystal. And notice each one looks like a crystal. So chemical would be the ones sort of like we made in lab when we did our crystal lab. Those would be an example of a chemical rock because we made them from a solution, and then we evaporated water, and then we let some of that supersaturated parts of the solution fall out of solution. They call that precipitation out of solution. But let's start with rock salt. Rock salt is pretty much the mineral halite, but in the form of a rock, so a little bit bigger chunk. Rock gypsum, same principle here. It's gypsum, but it's from a rock. And then we have limestone, and this is the kind without fossils, like you would find in a cave. So chemical environment tends to be things like a cave or an ancient ocean, and that water evaporates away, and we get some of these examples. Organic environments tend to be beach areas or ancient swamps where you might have had some ancient things buried, like plant material, and you could get coal. But if you bury an ocean area, you're going to get limestone or coquina, so those are your organic. And then for our clastic environments, we've got the rivers of conglomerate, maybe an ancient desert for sandstone or a beach. Breccia could be a glacier that melted a long time ago and everything got glued together. Shale's a lake bottom, but a lot of different environments. And one trend you'll notice We classify sedimentary rocks based on how they formed and what they're made up of. So each different type has a different formation, and then we look at each one individually to figure out what we do to classify each sedimentary rock. All right, thank you guys.